Welcome to the City Council regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025. The meeting is called to order at 6:33. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by me. Please stand. Put your hand over your heart. Face the flag. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Menchaca,
Here.
Vice Mayor Chan,
Here.
Councilmember Ding,
Here.
Councilmember Herrera Avila,
Present.
Councilmember Wu.
Here.
Closed session report. Our city attorney will now give the closed session report from the special meeting held earlier today.
Sure.
Tonight.
What's that?
Tonight, not
Tonight.
today.
Well, it was close enough. City Council met in closed session to discuss a labor negotiation for the 4 labor groups identified on the agenda, actually 5 if you count unrepresented. There was no reportable action from that meeting. Madam Mayor, that concludes the report.
Thank you. We will now have some announcements from our chief city clerk.
Tonight's meeting is live streamed on the city's online platforms. If you wish to address the City Council during tonight's meeting, we request that you please complete a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk at this time. When speaking, please state your name for the record. Please note that interactions between the City Council, city staff, and the public during meetings are subject to the city's rules of decorum.
Okay. Approval of agenda order. Are there any objections to the agenda order? Hearing none, the agenda order is approved. Okay, next item, please.
Presentations, Community Emergency Response Team Program Completion Recognition. Fire Captain Takahiro Suzuki will make the presentation.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Chan, Mayor Menchaca, City Council members, city clerks, as well as City Manager and Attorney. Thank you for having us. I'd also like to thank Chief Wallace for also allowing this program to continue, and just want to recognize these students for their achievement tonight. Just a little history. This is the 3rd year that we have collaborated with the Medical Careers Academy with the San Gabriel High School. These students that you're going to be seeing tonight are all seniors. They have graduated. They've come back to get their certificates and be recognized tonight for their hard work. They're part of the C.E.R.T program. They've done the 20 hours of training, and they also did the hands-on training with us through the fire department. All these students are going into the medical career in that field, and so there are future physicians, doctors, physical therapists, nurses, countless other positions. So you may see them in the future in our city or our surroundings. Who knows? Maybe they'll cure cancer. Kathleen Loggins, as well as Gregory Hester, are the teachers, and they coordinate this alongside with the fire department. And they do a great job teaching these students and preparing them for the hands-on portion that we provide for the through the fire department. These students did a great job. I can attest that Mark Lazaretto knows that it is a stressful scenario that we put them through so that we can see what they do during a disaster and how they conduct themselves and handle themselves, and I can attest that they did a great job. The assistant principal from San Gabriel High School is here to help represent and be here and show support. His name's Rene Regalado. But without further ado, I'd like to bring up the students. If you don't mind taking a picture with them, that'd be great. Thank you. The first student, Emily Avina, Danica Bolivar, Alicia Chen, Ilana Chow, Nicole Delgado, Mia Duran, Ada Gadula, Priscilla Hernandez, Leah Lau, Nicole Lim, Trisha Liu, Celeste Luviano, Fiona Lai, Krisha Mehta, Estrella Mercado, Jasmine Munoz, Ashley No, Madison Nguyen, Jenny On, Leanne Slemp, Candy Teng, and finally Jackie Tat. And if you did not notice, this class was made up of all females who did a great job lifting the firefighters that you see behind me, transporting them, as well as triaging them. So they did a great job. Once again, a round of applause for them.
Okay. If my colleagues could please come to forward.
Come on, y'all know when you're short, you all know the shorter one belong in the front. You're used to it by now.
Everybody look at, you hung a little bit, just a little bit this way. And then hung, can you peek out from the side? There we go. Okay, everybody look right here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. Last one. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
On behalf of the City Council, I just want to wish you all the best in your future career paths, and hopefully you consider coming back to our city and serving in that capacity. And thank you also, Officer Suzuki, for always leading this program that's so valuable. So thank you. Okay. Next item, please.
National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. We now invite San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District Director of Communications, Anais Medina Diaz, to make the presentation, after which Mayor Menchaca will present the proclamation. Give her the clicker. Oh, thanks. I don't have any formal slides. Well, while they're putting that, good evening. My name is Anais Medina Diaz. I'm the Director of Communications for the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members, City Manager, and residents in the audience. I'm really honored to be here and thank the city for proclaiming National Mosquito Control Awareness Week from July 15th to the 21st. This offers the opportunity to increase awareness about the impact mosquitoes have on public health. Mosquitoes are the most dangerous creature on Earth because of the diseases they can transmit. Here in our region, we worry about West Nile virus because it is endemic, but we also worry about dengue. Just last year, 11 locally transmitted cases occurred in the San Gabriel Valley out of 18 in the whole state. That's quite a few, and considering we didn't have any before 2023, it is causing us concern. However, mosquito control is a shared responsibility, and we need the help of residents to tip, toss, and protect. Tip out stagnant water, toss out unused containers, and protect using repellent with one of the CDC recommended active ingredients, which are picaridin, DEET, IR3535, and oil of lemon eucalyptus. And as always, our district is here to help. Residents can reach out for help to our district through our website or through the phone number and let us know of any potential sources, or if they just need help finding where these mosquitoes are coming from, we are there for you. And we are funded through property taxes, so we don't charge for our services or do any additional charges. So thank you once again. I appreciate the time to share a little bit about mosquitoes, but overall, thank you for supporting our efforts in protecting public health in the San Gabriel Valley and the city of San Gabriel. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, I wanted to give recognition to the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District for the work that you did with Eaton Canyon and all the families there. I am the representative for the city of San Gabriel. We have our meetings at 7 a.m. on the fourth Thursday of the month, and fourth Friday of the month. And anyway, so thank you to to the group, to the district for the wonderful work that you continue to do and the valuable work. And I do have the presentation here. It's up there, so I guess everyone could read it, but I'll just read the last two whereas. Whereas the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District works in partnership with local communities, including the city of San Gabriel, to educate residents, eliminate mosquito breeding sources, and prevent mosquito-borne diseases. And whereas the proactive efforts of local vector control programs are vital to protecting public health, especially as climate conditions, urbanization, and international travel contribute to the spread of mosquito-borne illnesses. Now, therefore, I, Denise Menchaca, Mayor of the City of San Gabriel, California, on behalf of the City Council, Vice Mayor Eric Chan, Council Members Tony Ding, Jorge Herrera Avila, and John Wu, do hereby proclaim June 15th through June 21st, 2025 as National Mosquito Awareness Week in the city of San Gabriel, and encourage all residents to do their part in preventing mosquito breeding by eliminating standing water and support local mosquito control initiatives. And now we'll ask my colleagues to come up and let's take a picture.
First camera. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. And next one. Maybe 1, 2, and 3. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next item, please.
LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Mayor Menchaca will make the presentation. LAC Leo, the LA County LGBTQ plus Elected Officials Association, was invited to accept the proclamation, but a representative was not able to attend tonight's meeting. The full text of the proclamation is available on the city's website.
Okay, LAC Leo purpose is to support an educational platform for LGBTQ plus elected officials to advocate on LGBTQ plus issues at the local, state, and federal levels, to provide networking opportunities, to share lessons learned, challenges, and experiences with one another, and to provide mutual support. We're sorry that they were not able to attend. We understand that they're very busy this month. I will read again, just the last three whereas. Whereas City Council and staff have committed to make San Gabriel an inclusive and welcoming community for all, including the LGBTQ plus community. And whereas all members of the San Gabriel community have the right to feel safe, not be discriminated against, and to live without the threat of harassment. And whereas the City of San Gabriel takes pride in the fact that we are a vibrant, diverse community and proudly joins other communities in striving to build a stronger, better state and nation for all residents. Now, therefore, I, Denise Menchaca, Mayor of the City of San Gabriel, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim June 2025 as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in the City of San Gabriel and invite everyone to join in the special observance. Okay, next item, please.
Public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to address the City Council on consent calendar items and on items of interest that are not on the agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the San Gabriel City Council. If you wish to address the council, please fill out a speaker's card and give it to the clerk. Our first speaker this evening is Vicky Goto.
Good evening. I'm Vicky Goto, former HERE Commissioner and resident of San Gabriel. I'm here to once again call out this City Council's hypocritical Pride Month proclamation, which would not even have happened tonight if Dr. Chastity Jennings Nunez had not reminded the council that June is indeed Pride Month. And so they amended the agenda tonight to include a performative gesture. I'm also here to let the residents of San Gabriel know that they can celebrate Pride here in the San Gabriel Valley at 12 stops throughout the month. The first celebrations in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and Glendora have already taken place, but this Saturday, June 7th, our neighbor cities of Alhambra and Monterey Park will once again team up for a local Pride Parade that kicks off at Mark Keppel High School at 9 a.m. and travels to Barnes Park for a festival until 12 noon. And I sincerely hope that no one on this council has the audacity to show up to other cities' Pride events to take a photo and show what a great ally she is to the LGBTQ community when this city has declined to participate in the SGV Pride Tour for a third year in a row. They know about it, they've been invited multiple times, and yet they choose not to participate. The San Gabriel Valley LGBTQ Center is partnering with cities across the San Gabriel Valley in La Puente, El Monte, Pasadena, Duarte, Whittier, Baldwin Park, and even Altadena, which has suffered so much loss and hardship and is still putting on their annual Pride celebration. Now that demonstrates true allyship and an actual supportive community. To find more details about any of these events, which range from a brunch and a summer concert in the park to an Asian Pacific Islander Father's Day panel discussion and an LGBTQ plus symposium at City of Hope, you can follow the center at SGV LGBTQ on Instagram or go to their website. The SGV Pride Tour aims to establish the San Gabriel Valley as a welcoming place for queer and trans people and their families by creating community connections, sharing resources, and manifesting collective transformation. It has grown from 8 cities in its first tour to 12 cities this year and will continue to expand across the region to bring community together and celebrate our diversity because everyone deserves to be safe, respected, and valued as their authentic selves. Lastly, I'm happy to announce that the San Gabriel Valley LGBTQ+ Youth Advocacy Coalition has launched and will be centering youth voices to build a more inclusive community through policy and systems change. So look out for us and get in touch with us if you want to join the movement for a more just and equitable society. Happy Pride, everyone.
Our next speaker is Chastity Jennings Nunez.
Good evening, everyone. About a year ago, I sat in this room and it was packed full of engaged residents. From my seat, I heard a council member proclaim themselves as an ally of the LGBTQ community, and another council member state their desire to listen and learn. A committee was proposed by council members Menchaca and Ding to bridge conversations with LGBTQ groups and individuals that they felt comfortable meeting with about initiatives the C.E.R.T Commission had championed. A year later, and the only changes that I have seen are that the City Council developed a policy on the rules of decorum that they managed to translate into multiple languages, and limited residents' ability to provide input and comments by eliminating the reading of online public comments. The only recommendation that the committee that was formed enacted was to send an invitation to the San Gabriel Valley LGBTQ Center to participate in local city festivals, an invitation that had been sent widely to other nonprofits in the area for years before that. So I can only believe that the invitation was not being sent to the LGBTQ Center prior to that as an oversight or as an intentional omission. Either way isn't great. We are now in a time when people no longer hide their hate, their bias, their homophobia, and racism. It is being spewed out of the White House on a daily basis. We need people, especially those who call themselves Democrats, to also be bold and in your face with their allyship and support for diversity and equity. So here are a couple of concrete recommendations for you concerning LGBTQ support. Vicky Goto, in her role as a consultant with Rainbow Labs, is developing an SGV LGBTQ Youth Advocacy Program. I am on the planning committee, as is Reverend Tim Hartley from Church of Our Savior. As council members, you can reach out to young adults in San Gabriel who identify as LGBTQ and are looking for safe spaces to feel supported and welcomed, and direct them to contact us. The second concrete suggestion is that you reach out to Christian Port and the San Gabriel Valley LGBTQ Center. Governor Newsom is trying to take back $150,000 in grants that were already promised to the center. This is the perfect time for San Gabriel to offer to support in some form of in-kind donation or a grant to support their work. Support of this type is steered all the time towards other nonprofits in the area like La Casa, AYC, and the Kiwanis. Photo ops and empty gestures were never enough, but now they are insulting and detrimental. There are groups in America right now that are in a fight for survival, and we need our Democratic politicians to be warriors for their constituents. If you are not willing to be one, then be prepared to step down and make way for someone who is. And I brought a one-pager on the youth advocacy program, so if you could please pass this to the council people. Thank you.
I have no more speaker cards.
Okay, next item, please.
Consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered routine, and recommendations will be approved in one motion unless a member of the city council requests separate discussion.
Okay, would any council member like to pull an item for separate discussion? Okay, I see none. Could I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay, I have a first. Could I have a second? I'll second. Okay, if there's no further discussion, let's vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Okay, next item.
Public hearing, compliance report pursuant to Assembly Bill 2561.
Okay, I now open the public hearing. Human Resources Risk Management Director Macias will make the staff presentation.
Thank you, Adam. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council. I'm pleased to present the city's compliance report pursuant to AB 2651. The agenda for this presentation goes as follows. Background and requirements. I'll give you a brief background and requirements as to AB 2561. Give you a brief summary of the bargaining units and employee groups that are subject to this type of reporting. And then also we will provide 2 point-in-time vacancy reports pursuant to AB 2561. We're providing 2 point-in-time vacancy reports, one for the inauguration date of the bill, and also one for as of May 31st, 2025. We'll also share, pursuant to the bill, ongoing recruitment and retention efforts that the city has put forth. Also, ongoing challenges and obstacles that we as a city continue to face. We'll also hand over the presentation to any of the units that would like to make a presentation, and then we will open it up for council technical questions, public comment, and then also council discussion. So the background for AB 2561, the California legislature developed and passed Assembly Bill 2561 because it determined that staffing vacancies in the public sector had become a statewide issue, adversely impacting public services. The issue is particularly significant, as we all know, for public safety positions. On September 22nd, 2024, Governor Newsom signed AB 2561 into law, which amends the Myers-Millis-Brown Act by creating a new obligation for public sector agencies to publicly report the status of their position vacancies on an annual basis. AB 2561 went into effect on January 1st, 2025. One of the really important things about the background to AB 2561 is that it is a statewide mandate. And so really what it does is it really implies, and the implication is that staffing in the public sector is a statewide issue. So the requirements for AB 2561 annually report the status of all full-time position vacancies, FTEs, for each recognized bargaining unit and unrepresented positions. For units with a vacancy rate of 20% or more, the agency must report the specific efforts that were made during that year to reduce the unit's vacancy rate. The agency must also report recruitment and retention efforts for the year, challenges experienced for the year, and any standing policies, procedures, and/or practices that may be hindering the hiring and retention process. Agency must also present the report during a public hearing sometime prior to the adoption of the agency's budget. And lastly, the agency must allow the bargaining units to make a presentation at the hearing. All of our recognized bargaining units have been invited and informed of their right to make a presentation tonight. The bargaining units that are subject to AB 2561 are the Firefighters Association, FFA, the Fire Management Group, the Police Officers Association, our Police Management Group, and also our unrepresented full-time positions. The point-in-time vacancy report for January 1st. So Table 1 shows us what our staffing looked like as of January 1st, the inaugural date of AB 2561. As you can see, for the Firefighters Association, we had authorized 30 FTEs. We had 6 vacant FTEs, 0 underfilled FTEs, and we had for a total of 6 operational vacancies for a vacancy rate of 20%. So as of January 1st, 2025, the Firefighters Association actually met the reporting threshold as established by the bill. Our Fire Management Group, we had 3 FTEs, 0 vacancies, and so a 0% vacancy rate. As of January 1st, our Police Officers Association had 39 authorized FTEs, 2 vacant FTEs, 3 underfilled FTEs, for a total of 5 operational vacancies, for a total of 12.8% in terms of overall vacancies for the association. Police Management Group, at that point in time, 12 authorized positions, 1 vacant FTE, for an operational vacancy rate of 8.3%. And then with our unrepresented positions, full-time positions, we had 120 authorized FTEs. We had 11 of those FTEs vacant at that point in time for an overall vacancy rate of 9.2% for that group. And then the citywide vacancy rate at January 1st was 11.3%. So as required, give you some of the things that we did, or all of the things that we did to try to remediate the vacancies within the FFA. So first and foremost, we completed contemporaneous recruitments for both firefighter EMT and firefighter paramedic. We received 107 applications for firefighter EMT. We tested 26 applicants. We deemed them worthy of testing. And we ultimately referred 13 applicants for hiring consideration, hired 6 of those applicants, and averaged approximately 180 days to hire from. We also received 15 applications for firefighter paramedic. We tested 6 of those applicants and referred 0 applicants for hiring consideration. Also, to mitigate our vacancies within that group, we did our best to identify areas that we could streamline, and so we streamlined the testing process for both firefighter EMT and paramedic, which increased the applicant pool. We renewed by mutual agreement with the FFA an MOU side letter, which allows the hiring of up to 9 firefighter EMTs to fill firefighter paramedic position vacancies. We also completed a compensation and benefits study, as we discussed previously, to identify strengths and weaknesses within the unit's compensation and benefits program. And we also made repairs to aging facilities to improve employee workspace. Table 2 shows us a point-in-time vacancy report for May 31st, 2025, which would be closest to our meeting date tonight. And as you can see, with the Firefighters Association, we still had 30 authorized FTEs, but at this point in time, we had 1 vacant FTE and 1 operational vacancy for a vacancy rate of 3.3%. So you can see as we went from, on January 1st, a 20% vacancy rate to about 3.3% in terms of operational vacancies. For our fire management group, really the status quo. We had 3 authorized FTEs, 0 vacancies, 0% vacancy rate. For our Police Officers Association, we can see a change. We still continue to have the 39 authorized FTEs within the group, but at this point in time, our FTE vacancies were 5. We also had underfilled 3 FTEs that were underfilled for a total operational vacancy rate of 20.5%. So we had 8 operational vacancies, giving us a 20.5% vacancy rate. Hence, they met the threshold for us to do additional reporting pursuant per their organization. Our police management group continue to have 12 FTEs with 2 vacant FTEs at this point in time for a vacancy rate of 16.7%. And then with our unrepresented full-time positions, we had 120 authorized FTEs, 12 vacant FTEs for a vacancy rate of 10% at that point in time. And again, our citywide total vacancy rate, 0.3% at that point in time. So some of the remediation efforts and outcomes that we did for the POA during the last 6 months, we conducted ongoing outreach, recruitment and testing for police officer recruit, police officer pre-service, and police officer lateral candidates. We also received 59 applications for police officer recruit. We referred 26 applicants for hiring consideration. We hired 4 applicants, and we averaged 64 days to hire, application date to start date. Since January 1st to present date, we also received 17 service. We referred 16 applicants for hiring consideration, hired 2 applicants, and averaged about 110 days to hire from application date to start date. And during the same period of time, we received 3 applications for police officer lateral and made 0 referrals and hired 0. Some of the additional things that we did to remediate the staffing issue for the POA, we implemented a hybrid hiring process for police officer recruits, enrolled in a post-training academy, otherwise known as self-sponsored recruits. This reduced the average hiring timeline for those types of hires to 7 to 14 days. We also implemented online testing for police officer recruit and pre-service candidates, increasing the applicant pool and accessibility and reducing testing timeline and also testing cost. We provided hiring retention bonuses for police officer hires pursuant to the MOU, up to $15,000. That has been in place for a few years now, but we continue to initiate that program. We also completed the compensation and benefits study to identify strengths and weaknesses in the unit's compensation and benefits program. And we also made repairs to aging facilities and installed temporary facilities to improve employee workspace at the station. So some of the ongoing recruitment and retention efforts that we continue to incorporate and practice here to really be as competitive as we can possibly be and to make sure that we're staffing properly. Over the last 12 months, we implemented the NeoGov online application system, something that had been lacking here in the city for indefinitely. And so NeoGov really helps us streamline the process. It really does a lot to help streamline that process and really curtail the hiring time. It increases the applicant pool, which is really important in a labor market that is highly competitive. It increases the applicant pool, increases applicant accessibility, and it also increases applicant participation in the process. We also implemented online testing for entry and mid-level positions. This, again, also increases the applicant pool, increases applicant accessibility and participation. It also improves exam efficacy and decreases adverse impact and testing costs. We also review and update workplace policies and practices. We really want to make sure that our policies and practices are modern and fair. We explore and develop alternative types of compensation and benefits. I mean, I think you know that we do discuss a lot of alternatives in terms of how we can be more competitive and, again, more modern and more just more competitive in terms of compensation and benefits. And we also explore and develop untapped and underutilized labor markets. I think that is a really important item. We probably don't discuss it openly a lot, but internally we do think about and try to analyze and identify those types of markets that maybe don't traditionally apply for public service positions, but really they are untapped and probably underutilized labor markets that we can explore. Some of the ongoing challenges and obstacles that we continue to face for our recruitment efforts. There is a scarce applicant pool, and the labor market is highly competitive, particularly, as you know, for public safety positions such as police officer and firefighter paramedic. External pressure from labor and special interest groups to incentivize and speed up the hiring process. Maintaining due diligence and merit in a highly competitive and pressurized hiring market. So we all want to streamline the process. We want to get to that hire and beat everyone to the hire, but we still have to maintain that due diligence and make sure that we're hiring for merit and that we're doing our homework and that we're hiring the appropriate personnel. And so that's a challenge, right? So it kind of contradicts us wanting to speed up a process, but at the same time, we have to pump the brakes sometimes and make sure we do our due diligence. So it is a challenge, it's an obstacle, and we're always exploring ways to do both. Ongoing environmental, political, regulatory, and economic challenges. And some of the environmental challenges, I think I've mentioned in the staff report, we do have aging facilities. Sometimes we lack some of those amenities. Those are environmental challenges that we have. Some of the political challenges, out in the real world, those social political challenges, that pushes for more public safety or less public safety, more hiring or less hiring. It just all depends on who's at the podium. So all of these things are really, really challenges to the recruitment and retention process. Regulatory challenges as well, and obviously economic challenges is always going to impact our ability to hire and retain, as we have to have the finances and the resources to do so. And then lastly, outdated workplace policies and requirements that could have unintended impacts. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we're always really looking at our policies and procedures, our workplace policies, because we want to make sure that they're modern, that they're still up to date, that they're still to code, and that they really treat everyone fairly, and that they don't end up having some type of adverse impact on any employee or an impact that would hinder their ability or want to be in the public service. And then finally, I will sum it up that as a city, as a staff, as your HR staff, we continue to be strategic, data-driven, innovative, and committed to continuous improvement as it pertains to our recruitment and retention efforts. Because at the end of the day, we know that there's always room for improvement. Every recruitment, we analyze it, we look at it, we try to apply lessons learned. What did we do well? What did we not do so well? What went well? What did not go well? And we try to apply those lessons to every subsequent recruitment that we do following that. So we really do a lot of self-analysis because we do believe in continuous improvement. And with that, I will hand it off to any bargaining unit that was here to make a presentation. I'm not too sure if anybody was interested. So I don't think we have any units that are going to make a presentation tonight. So with that.
Okay, thank you. So let me turn it to my colleagues. Does any council member have factual questions for staff to clarify the report? Vice Mayor Chan, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Edward, thank you. Great report and the presentation as always. Just for my own clarification and to clear up my understanding, from page 6 of your presentation, slide 6, what is the definitional difference between a vacant spot and an underfilled spot?
That's a great question.
Column B, column C.
That's a great question. So the difference between just a whole vacancy and a partial vacancy, and so what I would consider to be an underfilled position would be a position such as police officer recruit. Police officer recruit fills an FTE for police officer, but it's still an operational vacancy because the police officer recruit does not work a shift. They're still in training. They're not a full-fledged police officer. There's a lot of resource and time that still needs to go into that employee. They are employees, but they're not really doing shift work. They're still underfilling, and it's, for all intents and purposes, it is an operational vacancy.
I see, thank you. I yield.
Any other questions? Councilmember Wu.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, thank you, Edward. This is good presentation, and I understand that AB 2561 is the new bill that it's really good, allows us to be more transparent on our health level of employment environment and recruitment policy. So I do have questions about, even this is so short, but what is the timeline and process for reviewing outdated staffing and scheduling policies? And how are the labor groups being engaged in that review?
So really isn't a timeline. That is just an ongoing practice. And so sometimes it will come to our attention. Maybe an employee will identify something that they think we need to look at, or staff will find something that we think we need to look at, or a department director will come to the city manager, to HR, to discuss any types of staffing policies or workplace policies that they think need to be reviewed and or amended.
So this report is required conduct every year, it's annually. So that means that this is a report that we received tonight, and next time when we see the report will be the 2026 in June. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I see. And what specific improvement have been made to employee workspace? Because we all understand, for example, the POA, which is that we have the largest gap from the hiring and the vacancies. But we know that the police station the facility is getting old and wears and tears. So is there any like a long-term infrastructure plans to address for those facilities issues and to improve the recruitment or the employment process?
So there's both short-term and long-term plans to try to remediate and address those issues. And as the city manager, Lazaretto, has mentioned in prior staff meetings, doing the study in terms of the facility study, what type of facility, what type of capital improvement we can do for the police station. But in addition to that, we have staff and the city has done some remodeling to some of the facility to add some workspace, to update some of that workspace. And then most recently, the city did add the temporary modules to the facility. But again, those are really just temporary things. And ultimately, the environmental factors are going to rely on the city making the investment into a more permanent bricks and mortar type facilities that is going to add the types of amenities that are going to be required for the future workforce.
So for the future workforce, though, you will the staff recommendation will be coming from this report as well. Because you have brought up a very good points, and we understand that some reason that will stop us from getting a new blood to our city and for some of the agency as well. So that, for example, if we will be having a new police station, which will go for like a further steps, that will be maybe asking for our voters to approve, or so would that be part of the recommendations in the future that we'll bring up based on this report today?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor.
Any other council members for clarification? Councilmember Herrera Avila?
Thank you, Mayor. Just for clarification purposes, thank you for the report, very intensive. For January, I have two charts here. I have one for January 1st, 2025, where we have Police Association, 39 authorized employees, and then the other one for May 1st, which the number is the same, but I just want to understand the numbers that Mark, and maybe this is the answer for a question for you, I'm not sure, but are the numbers, shouldn't they be a little bit, didn't we approve like 5 or 6 employees, or they're not going to be showing here, or because they're not? I just kind of want to understand why those numbers are not there yet.
Thank you, Councilman Herrera Avila. Those are not shown because those are temporary overhires. And until we can fill our current vacancies, we won't have any employees that we can overhire. So once those numbers get to 0, hopefully in the next couple of months to a year, then we're going to still look at recruiting and hiring those positions. So there could be a time when you see this report and it's actually a negative vacancy rate, but it won't happen until looking at the POA numbers there. We have to hire 8 more just to be at 0.
Got it. So it's like a cushion that
That's
we
right.
can use. Those numbers won't reflect the numbers that we have to submit to the state as full employees, but we can still factor them in as a buffer and a cushion for our benefit.
That's right, and it speaks to what Director Macias said, which is we have those underfilled positions. So even if we had, all 8 positions filled and we had somebody that was in training, they still wouldn't be out filling a shift. So we want to have those lags to go away, so we don't have to wait a year to recruit and then hire somebody and put them through the academy and get them trained, and then they hit the field. We want to have a shorter gap in that so that if somebody moves on or retires, that we don't have to have that gap. And so it'll end up showing up eventually in that column C, which is underfilled. And again, it's only temporary, so we would do that when we know we have vacancies coming up in the next, year or two, and we would fill it that way. So short answer is because we still have vacancies, we're not going to have overhires.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you. And then a couple more questions. So this report, I know it's a brand-new report, a mandate from the state that just came down. I saw 2 numbers there. Just want to have a point of clarity. That is this going to be just 1 year, or how are we going to be reporting these numbers? Is it every year or twice?
Every year, and I anticipate moving forward that we'll only have one point-in-time report for next year's report. We thought it was a good idea to give 2 point-in-time reports, given that we've only have a half a year to report since the effective date. And so it just made sense to make January 1st 1 point in time, and then the most recent date approaching this meeting to give a point in time for our vacancies. But I anticipate moving forward that next year's AB compliance report, AB 2561 report, will be just 1 point in time vacancy report.
Got it. I mean, this just, to me, it feels like an extra step that the state is mandating, because I'm sure as a city, we're responsible enough to say, hey, this is where we feel comfortable with when we have vacancies. So I kind of want to understand, like, from before, we had already a process. Is that correct? And what was the percentage that we were normally, like, looking at if we had one?
So we always internally, we have always had this information. This is not news to us. We are just, sharing it publicly. However, if anyone had ever asked prior, we would have made it public. This is not we're not trying to hide anything. I think this is really important information. I think I can appreciate the bill, that it helps us talk publicly about what the vacancies are and where our strengths are at, because clearly not all of the groups have a vacancy issue, but it does clearly show that, at the police officer rank, there is a vacancy issue. But again, it's likely across the entire state, hence why this is a statewide mandate.
Interesting. So did we have like a baseline, or we were just going based on, trying to fill and being proactive?
So for me, my goal is always to try to have, we always want 100% staffing. That's always the goal. That's an impossible, really kind of a batting average to hit. But if we could be at 10% or under for any one group and for the entire city, that's like optimal. 11.3% citywide is still a really strong staffing rate. But the 20% for sure, anything above 20% is problematic. And I would, especially for those really critical positions, anything above 15% is problematic. Ideally, we want it to be 10% or less, or 100% or 0%.
And then those percentage fluctuate and mean different things for different departments, I would say, because for some departments, we have 3 people, and we have 1 person that leaves. That's a huge, like, for example, that fire management group, if
Right.
1 person were to leave, that's
overnight.
a huge percentage. It will hit us hard. But then I understand it averages out. Interesting. So my last thing, it would be, with this being such a new thing, I hope that there's a database that this is going to go to, I'm sure, with the state. And it will be interesting for us to see where all these numbers play out with different cities, and then as a region, and then as a whole state. I hope that that they do provide those numbers since they're going to have that data. I'm not sure if they're going to provide that or not.
That's a great question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Edward. I don't believe that this gets reported to the state. We're required to report this to the public and the council, but there isn't a clearinghouse, for example, for all this information. So it's just for you and the public.
Okay, so it feels like it's just something for transparency. Okay.
That's right.
Understood.
Maybe not a bad idea, though.
Yeah. I mean, if we have the data, we can just compile it, but that's cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other council members would like, Councilmember Ding?
Thank you, Mayor. So this authorized full-time, I saw the total of the 204. That's we budgeted full-time, the whole city, the employee, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And still want to clarify for the report, today report, thank you, the report, and the January 1st and the May 31st. So the bill, so they have the detailed requirements every month or every year or every 6 months? They have anything under the bill?
The way I have interpreted the bill and the way we have interpreted internally is it's a once-a-year point-in-time report that we are required to make prior to the adoption of the agency's budget. So,
Okay, prior to the budget.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think it's open for interpretation, giving multiple points in time or 1 point in time. And I would surmise that when reading the bill, if it's 1 point in time, it's going to be the closest point in time you can get an accurate number for your reporting purposes when you're going to make your public hearing and do your public report.
Okay. Then also, I thank you to also separate the different group, like fire, PD, and the management group, and the unrepresented group. So they also require, based on the different department, different group, the percentage too? Because you say the statewide, citywide, just 11.3.
Correct. So the bill requires each recognized bargaining unit to be carved out and or specified within the report so that you can see each unit by the unit and to see what the vacancy rates were for the unit. I have included the citywide total just for informational purposes, but the bill requires that we show each of those units separately for the purposes of our discussion and the presentation.
So each unit, if we reach out like 20%, we should be to the improvement.
Correct. And each unit, if any one of those units, as I've mentioned, priorly FFA was out of compliance with the 20%, and then currently POA is above the 20%, the bill requires us to do additional reporting. What have we done to mitigate the vacancies within that bargaining unit? And I shared that in the prior slides.
So because this time on the May 31st, it's with the POA have the reach out the 20%. So how long our city council can know it's a improvement, or so how do you how long you can report it?
I think council has a prerogative to ask staff to come back on a more regular basis to report, make a similar report like this. Again, that's your prerogative. If you wanted us to come back quarterly, we can do that. Maybe twice a year, once a year. I think that's absolutely council's prerogative to ask staff to come back on some type of periodic basis to share this type of information.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No public comment, Mayor.
Okay, I will now close the public hearing. Just a reminder, there's no vote. This is just a receive and file. So it's now time for council discussion. I would like to start since I haven't said anything. So, Edward, my first question is in the report, I didn't see anything about exit interviews. Are they conducted? Is that something that we find valuable as a tool to try to do better? Or how does that work?
That's a great question, and that is something we need to incorporate more in our process, and that is something we have identified as a staff as We have made a practice just recently of putting in when we accept someone's resignation, we put in instructions for them to reach out to their department and our HR if they would like to have an exit interview. Because we want to make sure we're making that available to each employee that is leaving the organization, because that is very valuable information. However, no one is compelled to do that. It's not a requirement upon resignation or separation from the city.
Okay, yeah, because I think that would be helpful too, and for next year's compliance report, to show as a tool, just
Yeah.
one of many tools.
Absolutely.
The second question is, I know that you put in this report the compensation and benefit study, but I don't think everybody knows what that is, or what kind of information was provided. Can you very briefly explain to the public what that report is? Because we spent considerable amount of money because we wanted to make sure that everyone was at the same level, well, not the same level, I'm sorry, that if they were a certain level, that they were getting compensation comparable to other cities to make us more competitive, as well as benefits. So maybe you could just briefly say how many cities were involved and.
Absolutely.
Yeah, anyway.
I think you just described it perfectly. But to your point.
Sure, you could do better.
To your point, the compensation and benefits study was a study that helped us look at what we currently provide in terms of compensation and benefits for each of our employee groups. And then it's a review and a comparison to those cities outside of the city of San Gabriel that we think we should be comparing ourselves to. So i.e. our competitors, these cities that we compete for employees with. So we do the same analysis. We look at their compensation and benefits, and we match ours to their compensation and benefits. And really what it does, it helps us figure out whether or not we're marketable. We're at market for things such as base salary, things such as special pays, health benefits, leaves, and it helps us make a comparison and whether or not we think we're comparable. And then secondly, it helps us identify maybe some things that other organizations are doing that we're not doing, and vice versa. Are we doing things that maybe our competitors aren't doing? And so it just really helps us look at what everyone else is doing behind closed doors, and to really try to give us an idea of what makes us marketable and what we can do to improve our marketability if in fact we're not keeping up with the labor market that we compete with. And it was a comparison of 10 comparator cities, and again, all pretty much local to San Gabriel and all very similar to our scope of services.
And how often are we going to do that study? I don't remember what we decided, because I don't think we've ever had done that study before. So are we going to look at maybe every 5 years, every 4 years? Is there anything, what's the best practice?
That's a great question. Again, that's going to be a council policy decision on staff, and council can make that a periodic practice, whether it be 5 or 10 years. I would recommend that we do at least a low-level report every 5 years and a very comprehensive report every 10 years, just to make sure that we're keeping pace and to make sure that we're updating our data so that we know and we're informed of what we're doing and what everybody else is doing. So at the very least, do a minor study every 5 years and a major study every 10 years. If we want to make the investment, maybe a more comprehensive study just every 5 years. But again, that would be a policy decision for council, as there is an expense tied to it.
And then lastly, I'm just going to piggyback on what Councilmember Ding said regarding getting updates. I know there was a time where in our Thursday updates that there would be some kind of update regarding the status of our hiring, but we can do something similar, I think, maybe every quarter, but
Sure.
suppose you just do a Thursday update, and if it's necessary to do an actual agenda, then we can do an agenda item. But I think it would be helpful just so we know, although I feel like Mark's very good about letting us know where we are with regards to recruitment, but it seems like you have everything in place now that it would just be a matter of updating the numbers.
Absolutely,
And,
we can do that.
And keep us informed. Okay, great, thank you. Is there any other council member who would like to ask any further questions? Well, yeah, I mean, because it's just file and receive, so there's no vote. So Councilmember Herrera Avila? Or Avila?
So,
Herrera?
I mean, I like the idea, Mayor mentioned about the exit, basically the exit survey. I know a lot of companies do that, so I think that's a great idea. I kind of wanted to add or ask a question kind of related to that, but more of a, does the city have a annual employee satisfaction survey that goes out and not wait until, they're leaving?
No, but that's a great suggestion as well, and I think we can look at something like that and put out an annual satisfaction. That has actually been brought up in my staff meetings as well, and we've been kind of brainstorming as to how we would want to do that, and obviously that would be an internal discussion as well as to what we cover in that annual survey.
And I'm sure there's companies that provide that service, and we can, if we end up doing that, we can figure out, what we want to achieve from that satisfaction, retention, engagement, and so on and so forth. But it's just building on the mayor's idea of having the exit, obviously optional exit appraisal or survey.
Right.
I think, I'm glad that you were already thinking about it. So thank you. That's all I have as far as questions.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll just file.
Well, no question. Sorry.
Vice Mayor?
I thought we were still in questions. Mine isn't quite a question. Mine is just a comment. Now, I know that this is only a receive and file item, but I just wanted to say that this is just another example of the dopey California state government wasting our city's staff time by requiring us to prepare and file more unnecessary reports and forms. So, but of course you did a great job, but it's not your fault. You're just following the rules. But yeah, that's just my comment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments before we file?
Oh, yeah, okay. So,
Councilmember Ding?
thank you, Mayor. So I saw that on your report, that page 10 regarding the received 59 application for the police officer recruiting. So we just got hired a 4 applicant, right? So is there any, or second one, it's a 17 application. That's a pre-service, meaning they from another agency to apply?
Pre-service means that they have prior police officer experience.
Experience.
But does not necessarily mean that they're working for another agency.
Okay. So only 2 applicants. So is there any ideas, so how why the ratio is not too good, but not too bad too, but the percentage, okay. But just want to find out, so why rest of people not interesting, or maybe they are not qualified. So maybe can you help for the future to do the analysis? Yeah.
I can do the analysis now. So, and not to disparage any applicant, but anybody can apply. And so there is a process, and that's why we talk about due diligence. There's a process that we may get a pool of applicants, but when we review those applicants and we put them through a process to determine their qualifications and their attributes and their abilities to do that type of work, the fail rate is really, really high, and for good reason, because not anybody can just work in those positions. And hence why it's really important for us to try to identify untapped labor markets that may have interest in these types of positions, because that could help bolster our applicant pool and increase our success rate. And so I wish that we had hired more than 4 as well, but I assure you, it really comes down to making a really, really sound hiring decision at the end of the day, and we can't just hire each and every applicant that submits an application. We really have to do our due diligence. And so there's part of that is just a high failure rate for applicants and those types of positions in particular.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any more questions? Okay. Oh.
It's just sparking so much good conversation because it's very important. How how are we engaging? I think it would be a good idea if we're not, I don't know how it would look, but engaging schools, colleges, El Camino College, Cal State LA, are we entertaining those ideas? Also engaging the high school, education forums, maybe job fair, or something along those lines here in San Gabriel? Are we thinking about that, or is that something that you've thought about?
We have thought about that, and we really rely on the department to help do that type of outreach. They do the outreach at the police academies, but also at local colleges that have curriculum pertaining to criminal justice, public administration. So we ask them and expect them to do that type of outreach. Also, really looking to work with our PIO to help develop and revamp the way we actually do our messaging and the way we do our outreach. That is probably something that's outside the scope of my skill set, but that is something we definitely can use, lean on the PIO for, because that is something that we can probably continue to improve. As I mentioned before, continuous improvement, identifying areas where we can get better is always open for discussion for us.
Interesting. My last question, just because the mayor brought up a good point of the exit survey and then with the actual annual survey, I kind of want just to understand how what is the next steps? These recommendations or suggestions came about, and do we have to vote on something like this, or how do we start implementing these kind of key items that we bring up?
So an exit survey, that's really not going to be a policy decision for council. That's really going to be an internal administrative function for staff. That is something that we can do. And if just talking about it sounds like a great idea. Same with our exit interviews. That really isn't a policy decision for council. It really is an internal function. However, some of these other bigger ticket items, those are going to be policy decisions for council, i.e., how often do we want to make the investment in a compensation and classification study, things of that nature. And I think for the city manager and myself, we always look at each request and determine whether or not it's a council decision or if it's really a staff decision. We just kind of a case-by-case basis, we kind of make that determination. But when we talk about the exit interviews and the survey, that really is an internal administrative staff function.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay. Now we're going to receive and file this report. Next item, please.
Adoption of the fiscal year 2025 to 2026 operating budget, capital improvement program, and appropriations limit.
I now open the public hearing. Finance Director Kahulo Kula will make the staff presentation.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. It is my pleasure to present the proposed operating budget, capital improvement program, and appropriations limit for your consideration this evening. So to start, we'll walk through the city's budget preparation cycle up to this point. So the first part of the cycle illustrates our planning stages and establishing the City Council policy settings that will guide the budget development. So we kicked off the budget on January 26, 2025 with the distribution of budget worksheets to city departments. On February 4th, there was a public City Council meeting where we discussed budget priorities. Internally, February 13th, the budget worksheets were submitted by the various budget departments to Finance. On March 11th, we provided a draft budget numbers to the city manager, and then we held joint meetings with city departments to discuss the budget and their proposed budget and their departmental finances with the city manager, finance, and departmental staff. And then we held an internal budget balancing meeting on April 2nd with the city manager and executive team to determine the final funding decisions. And then the second part of the cycle outlines our public engagement and decision-making. So this included on April 21st, we compiled a draft budget and conducted a public special meeting with the City Council to do a budget study session. From April 28th through May 8th, we conducted individual meetings with council members, 2-hour individual meetings with council members to review and discuss the budget. And then on May 15th, we conducted an informal community budget meeting over here on Thursday night at 6:30 PM, May 15th, at the Blossom Market Community Meeting Room, where we had, approximately 6 attendants. The one item that there was a consensus of enthusiasm was the $200,000 that's budgeted for the street signs for this upcoming fiscal year. And then that brings us here tonight, after this, that journey brings us here tonight, where we're conducting the public hearing to discuss the budget and possibly present it. So moving on to talk about the numbers, which the city council are very, very familiar with. And so we'll begin with the citywide all funds budget. So this chart that we've seen before summarizes projected revenues and expenditures across all city funds. The total all city fund expenditure budget is $86.5 million. The general fund, which is our primary operating fund, makes up the majority of our expenditures at 65%. We have 21 special revenue funds that have revenue that's restricted for a particular purpose, makes up approximately 26%. And the two largest functions of our special revenue funds are expenditures for our pension costs at $12 million, and then transportation at $5.1 million. And then we have our 3 internal service funds that provide services to departments within the city, our fleet services, which maintains and purchases vehicles. We have our risk management, which is basically our general liability and workers' comp insurance. And then we have our information technology internal service fund. From expenditure type, we have operating expenditures, makes up the large majority at 97%, and we have new funding for the capital improvement program of $2.7 million. Next, we'll turn to the city's general fund. As I mentioned earlier, the general fund is the primary fund used to support core operations and services. So the general fund is balanced with a projected surplus of $933,000. And we'll make a note on that surplus after we go through the revenues and expenditures. So revenues are total $57.7 million. It's an increase of $3.2 million as compared to the prior year. This is primarily due to higher tax revenue and additional transfers in from the retirement fund. On the expenditure side, total expenditures for the general fund is about $56.8 million, which is an increase of $2.8 million. This increase is largely attributed to higher personnel costs, including full-time salaries, the CalPERS liability payment, and overtime, which is partially offset by a 3% vacancy factor that we baked in to the expenditure budget this year. And so the one item to note is the proposed expenditures do not include any salary adjustments. Depending on the adjustments ultimately approved, the general fund may need to draw on fund balance to fully support all proposed expenditures. So a little deeper dive into general fund revenues. Taxes represent the largest source of general fund revenue at 65%, followed by the transfer in from the retirement fund at 21%. Overall, as mentioned earlier, general fund revenue is projected higher by $3.2 million, and this represents an increase of nearly 6%. So moving on to our general fund expenditures. So total proposed expenditures is $56.8 million. As you can see from the pie chart, that personnel represents the largest share of general fund expenditures at 77%. And this includes full-time and part-time salaries, overtime, retirement contributions, health benefits, and other insurance related expenses. So next, we'll analyze the general fund 5-year forecast with a focus on the net change in fund balance and fund balance reserves. So this table here presents our 5-year forecast projected and projects general fund revenues and expenditures through 2031. The couple rows to highlight is the blue row, net change in fund balance. And you can see in that row that net change in fund balance is positive all the way through the 5-year forecast. One item to note that in 25-26, that forecasted number does not include any salary adjustments. And from 26-27 through 2030-31, it does include a 3% salary adjustment that's baked into that forecast. And then finally, the two bottom lines of the table, we have ending fund balance and ending fund balance percentage of expenditures. And you can see that ending fund balance, the percent of fund balance we have to expenditures, maintains about the 39.3% to 40%, which is well above our target reserve level of 25%. Moving on to citywide staffing that Director Macias spoke of a little bit. So there are total proposed full-time budgeted positions of 205. This is an increase of one position, as there was one position added in the police department during fiscal year 24-25, and this is citywide. For the general fund, there's 182 and a half funded positions, with the remainder of the positions supported by other funds. And our capital improvement plan for the year. So this table is shows the funding and the type of project that will be funded. There are 7 projects that will receive new funding this year of $2.7 million, with the most significant project being $1.47 million for Mission and Las Tunas intersection improvements. And then moving on to our appropriations limit. So annually, cities are required to pass a resolution to adopt their annual appropriations limit. The appropriations limit, in accordance with Article 13B of the California Constitution, limits the amount of tax revenue that states and local governments can budget each fiscal year. Our revised appropriations limit for fiscal year 25-26 is about $57.3 million. Our appropriations that are subject to the limit is $35.6 million, keeping us well below the appropriations limit by $21.6 million. So in summary, there are $86.54 million in total budgeted expenditures across 25 funds. The general fund budget is balanced with the surplus of $933,000 pending salary adjustments. The general fund reserves are projected to reach $22.34 million, which is about 39 to 40% of fund balance reserve percentage. Our 25% contingency reserve target is achieved. Our 5-year forecast projects growth in the general fund reserves, maintaining that 39 to 40% reserve level. And we have $2.72 million in new CIP funding for 7 projects this fiscal year. And then staff's recommendation is that the City Council conduct a public hearing on the proposed operating capital improvement and appropriations limit, receive comment and testimony, and adopt the following resolutions. 25-24, adopting the operating budget, 25-23, the capital improvement program, and 25-22, the annual appropriations limit for fiscal year 25-26. That concludes the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Does any council member have factual questions for staff to clarify the report? I see none. Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No public comment, Mayor.
Okay, I now close the public hearing. It's now time for council deliberation and discussion, if you so wish. Otherwise, I need a motion. I see no.
I'll move to approve staff recommendation.
Can you move that to the staff recommendation, just so we can all see it? Great, thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Okay, let's vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Okay, great, thank you. Next item, please.
Ordinance 719, adoption of California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection Fire Hazard Severity Zone Map, introduction and first reading.
I now open the public hearing. Fire Chief Wallace will make the staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Menchaca, Vice Mayor Chan, and member of the City Council. Steve Wallace here tonight, Fire Chief for the City of San Gabriel, to introduce the Ordinance 719, which adopts the Local Responsibility Area Fire Hazard Severity Zone Maps as issued by CAL FIRE last March. Tonight, I'll be informing the community about what the map is and the process used by CAL FIRE to determine the risk. We'll present the findings specific to San Gabriel. And it should be noted that Government Code Section 51179 now mandates that cities like San Gabriel, which have a no hazard zone designation, adopt the hazard zones within 120 days of issued by the State Fire Marshal by ordinance. So this is the first time that's happened. In the past, you had to have a moderate, high, or very high rating to be required to adopt the zones. So what's the Fire Hazard Severity Zone Map? It's created by CAL FIRE to identify wildfire hazard areas. This year, in March 25, was the first update since 2011. The maps are not risk assessments, but they identify wildfire hazard areas based on physical conditions and actually some science, which I'll go over in a few minutes. It applies both to the state responsibility areas, which are called SRAs. That's mostly stuff that LA County is dealing with or other contract agencies are dealing with. It does not impact San Gabriel. And local responsibility areas, which does impact us as we're the service provider. The San Gabriel Fire Department is the service provider for the city of San Gabriel. The maps are used as tools for planning, safety regulations, and building standards. So fire hazard severity zone maps help communities identify high-risk areas and also help develop mitigation strategies to reduce threats in those areas. The data is used to inform building codes, land use and planning, and insurance policies related to wildfire risks. The maps are used as a guide in fire prevention efforts and community preparedness measures. So the way these maps are developed is that there are several factors that are looked at. First is fire history. What's happened in the area? Is there a history of conflagration? Is there a history of active wildfire behavior? Looks at the vegetation, the fuels. Looks like the fuel beds, how dry are fuels, what's the predominant fuel, and how fire spreads in those fuel beds. A big one is topography and terrain. Sorry, 2 T's is a little bit of a tongue twister for me. Steep slopes, other topographical features can accelerate fire spread. Again, not much of what we have in our city. Climate and weather, with wind, temperature, and humidity all playing a crucial role in fire behavior, I think as we saw last January. And then last but not least in the equation here is flame length and blowing embers. These factors potentially affect the intensity and spread of a fire. So looking at the designation map, we are part of the southeastern Los Angeles County unincorporated local responsibility area. As you zoom in, you can see San Gabriel there sort of in the middle. And thankfully, we have none of the pretty colors that you see kind of on the borders of that. San Marino is not impacted, Temple City's not impacted. And as you move towards the foothills or down towards the 60 corridor, you see we get into more vegetated areas and higher fire risks. Our closest fire risks are along the Montebello border, the west side of Alhambra, sort of the northwest corner of South Pasadena. Then as you get into Pasadena, Arcadia, and into the foothills, the danger obviously increases. So I'm happy to report that the city of San Gabriel is not in any moderate, high, or very high severity zone. We have no historical data of any conflagration or major wildfire incidents within the city, and we're considered less prone to wildfire compared to areas designated with much higher ratings. With all that, there's no data suggesting that we need to change our existing codes or regulations based on the current designations. So that being said, while the city isn't in any of these identified zones, there's always going to be a risk of wildfire. Concerns for us in the fire department are the Alhambra wash areas, specifically from Alhambra Road, North Alhambra Road, south along Arroyo Bridge, Pascual, kind of down in the Stir Drive area. There's quite a bit of vegetation down there. The Rubio Wash area adjacent to the Mission Walk development. And then there's some vacant lands within the city as well, such as the 800 block of Gladys, But I'm happy to say that almost every one of those areas has been mitigated. We have great partnerships and collaboration with the San Gabriel County Water District, who has a lot of the land along the washes, the Army Corps, the flood control folks, and as well as part of our community risk reduction, we work with homeowners, especially up in that behind the Stir Drive where there's 4 or 5 houses up there that are really tucked away that I'm sure a lot of people don't even know are there, and have the potential for damage from fires if it got taken off back there. So tonight, staff recommends that the City Council conduct a public hearing and discuss proposed ordinance number 719, waive the full reading and introduce ordinance 719 by title only, which is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of San Gabriel, California, adopting the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection Hazard Severity Zone Map for local responsibility areas, and waive future reading of the ordinance and schedule a second reading and adoption of the ordinance at the next regular City Council meeting. The ordinance would then become effective 30 days after adoption. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief. Does any council member have factual questions for staff to clarify the report? I see one, Council Member Wu.
This question, well, I think I will address to Mark. I wonder that with the designated, the new updated maps like this, would that be affecting or helpful to reduce any kind of rate for JPIA? Because we are less risk on fire hazard. And I'm happy to see that we are not really in even not a moderate fire hazard zone here. It doesn't mean that our fire department will be easier because we still have to supporting other city as a vertical system, but would that be helpful for our JPIA premiums?
Thank you, Councilman Wu. It's helpful that it hasn't gone up. So because we haven't had any changes, that won't be one of the factors that goes into our JPIA cost. So it won't be reduced because we weren't in any fire hazard zones prior to this, but it will not make our rates go up, which is good news.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, clarifying questions? Okay, I just had a couple for you, Chief. Well, first of all, today we happen to have a fire because of the lightning.
Sure.
And at warp speed, you guys were there on, I guess I can say where it was, Abbott and Fairview, and you were able, your team was able to handle it immediately. So thank you so much for that. My only question would be regarding the overgrowth. You mentioned some sites, but what about our parks? You know, there's a wash there, like at Vincent Lugo, but even, you know, any of our parks, there's a lot of vegetation. How is that handled? Who's taking care of the overgrowth? Would that just be our Public Works with some advice from your team, or how do our parks work?
That's a great question because a lot of it, you know, it is green space and there is a lot of vegetation growing in that. Smith Park is very well maintained, as are all the parks in the city. As far as any responsibility areas that the city is directly responsible for, the area between the back of McKinley School and Lugo Park.
Yeah, that's the area I was thinking
that
of.
can get dense. The parks maintenance staff does a spectacular job of taking care of downed and dead trees back in there. We do a fair amount of our wildland training in that area as well, so we have a pretty good idea of what's back there. About every 2 years, we go back there and we actually cut some of it. We do some of our saw training. And there was a time, and maybe in the future again, where we would go back and cut line and actually burn some of that stuff out along the washes so that it doesn't become a problem later when we don't have control over it or when the weather gets adverse.
Yeah, because Marshall Park, I think, is pretty much under control. We have that little pocket park, Roosevelt, where we kind of share with Roosevelt Elementary. I think that's taken care of. But I do worry about Vincent Lugo because there is so much property that people don't even realize is there. And it backs into McKinley. So thank you for that. Okay, Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comment? Oh, well, we still have time to talk afterwards, but if you want to ask clarifying questions, sure.
Question, yeah. So since you sparked that conversation with these areas, that some of these areas like Smith, like Vincent Lugo Park, I mean, they do not belong to the city, but we're maintaining it to a certain degree. Is that what I'm hearing here?
I would have to get with Rebecca, and I'm not sure of the actual ownership of the land, but it is maintained by the city.
I think some of it is like the engine, Army and Corps of Engineers, right?
You're right. It's actually three folks, or three entities. It's the city, as Chief Wallace rightly pointed out. It's the Army Corps of Engineers, as you've pointed out, but then it's also LA County Flood Control District. And so anytime we do maintenance, we do everything we can on our area, and sometimes rather than waiting until they react, we do some of theirs as well. But if we do big projects, Angela and her team from Public Works reach out to the Army Corps of Engineers and the Flood Control District, and we get it maintained that way.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to express some concerns here. And you guys are doing a great job, Chief. Appreciate all your hard work. But I had a recent situation where somebody contacted me by the freeway, and it was a Caltrans issue. Several emails went out. I feel like Caltrans takes, I mean, I'm sure they have a vast area, but it was a hard time to get them out and responding to our city needs. The lack of maintenance in their side, you know, what they own by the freeway, just a little concerning, because that seems to be an area that gets, I don't want to say ignored, because I'm sure we have eyes on the city's end, but there's limited things that we could do if Caltrans is that's their property. So I wish that Caltrans would pick up their feet a little bit more when we ask them to do something, and at least do bare minimum to maintain that area, because it becomes a fire zone. And I just kind of want to understand your take on this. And are you working with Caltrans, or what are we doing to ensure that we have a better relationship? I feel that there's some kind of disconnect, and I don't know the experience that the rest of the council is having, but I mean, I'm very disappointed, and not from us, but from Caltrans. I mean, it took, Mark, how long did it take? I mean, I think it was like something that should have gotten resolved within, they said, a month. It took about 2 to 3 months, and multiple emails and multiple people contacting them. So I think it's a disservice, because we get comments here about concerned citizens wanting some trimming, and unfortunately, there's nothing that the city can do. We can't go out there and trim what is not ours, because it belongs to Caltrans. And when we ask them to do something, it doesn't get done in a manner that is a responsible, timely manner. So I kind of want to ask you, I mean, what's your take on that?
It's a good question with an ongoing problem. I mean, I know we've experienced a lot of trash down there. We've heard in public comment at other meetings with citizens, the community coming and without just dismay about the conditions of the exit ramps. I know Public Works has gone down and gone in and cleaned up what they can, and not wait for Caltrans to come and do it. There's very little I can do and take enforcement action, as our municipal codes aren't going to cover their right of way. But if we see something down there, we can report it to them as well. When we're out on the freeway with a lot of traffic accidents, those interchanges, we'll see things. We'll run it up the chain. We'll make notifications. And I'm guessing, much like you and your frustration, we send the notifications out, and not a whole lot happens. If an incident does happen down there, and it's happened quite a bit between Garfield and Walnut Grove, that has the islands of vegetation, mostly on the south side of the freeway, which is Rosemead, Monterey Park, but we end up responding down there. And luckily, we're able to mitigate that pretty quickly and put those kinds of things out. But it is an ongoing problem. When it's noticed, it's brought up, it's pushed up through contacts we have with Caltrans, with CHP, and with the state. But it's very frustrating.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Vice Mayor Chan?
Councilman Herrera Avila, welcome to your state government.
Okay, any other clarifying questions? About,
I don't know if this is a clarified question or not. Okay, I know that this is state mandate, even we don't have changes based on their fire map. right?
Correct.
Yeah, but if we discuss the fire hazard in our city, I hear about it sometimes that's regarding maybe our city code enforcement, because sometimes the neighborhood, they complain that another neighborhood, the overgrowing the tree or bush, so or some business too. So for this kind of scenario, so what a city can respond, and also is it's real related this resolution.
That's first part of your question, Councilmember Ding. That's part is not related to adopting this ordinance. But what there is there's a section in the municipal code, section 98.02, that deals with nuisance, and it actually specifically has a subsection that delivers or deals with vegetation, trees, and exactly what you're talking about. When we receive a complaint or we notice it, because we're out in the community every day, we'll see something. Our first attempt is to contact the property owner and point out the hazards and ask that they remediate it. If and when that doesn't happen, we refer it to code enforcement, which then goes down an administrative route up to issuing citations, and at the end warrants, and we can go out there and have the brush clearance done if someone doesn't want to comply. So within the city, within those, I guess it's called nuisance properties, we do have some administrative action we can take. We do have enforcement action we can take, and it's fairly common that we see that and we act on that.
Okay. Another extended question. Also, sometimes they complain some vacant land. They overgrowing the grass, something like that. So, city, have any chance to contact the property owner? But I hear about it, sometimes the property owner don't know response. We're hard to find it. So, for this scenario, so city, how we can do the enforcement?
It sort of falls under the same thing. It becomes a nuisance property, and there's very detailed sections of that municipal code that allow us to take action. With absentee property owners, actually the two properties that I see fairly regularly that we give them a reminder about once a year, then they're very responsive and very good, is at the old 824 Gladys Mission Lodge site, which it grows up in the spring. Usually we just send a reminder out and they take care of it. That property's in great shape right now. Okay. And the other one that used to be problematic, which is not so anymore, is where the railroad storage was along the Ace Trench project. Right now, that's in a very good state as well. So the big vacant lands within the city seem to be under control, but it's the same process. That land within the city falls under the municipal code, and we take the actions that are outlined in that code.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I see no more questions. Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No public comment, Mayor.
Okay, I now close the public hearing. It's now time for council deliberation and discussion. We can also, I'll also entertain a motion.
You take a motion?
I'll make one comment just quickly regarding the requirement for this ordinance. Again, it's just more of the dopey state government mandates on our city. So, my opinion. Thank you. I yield.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I have a motion.
Okay, I have a motion for the staff recommendation.
Yes.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, and I see no more discussion. Okay, let's vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Next item, please.
We have no continued business. The next item is new business A, ordinance number 720, approving a service contract with the Los Angeles County Public Health Department. Assistant to the City Manager, Ileana Flores, will make the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. I just want to warn you, this is my first time presenting, so feel free to go easy on me tonight.
Hazing time.
Right? Okay. So the City of San Gabriel uses the Los Angeles County Public Health Code as the health code for the city. The Los Angeles County Department of Public Health has approached all 85 cities within the Los Angeles County, including San Gabriel, about updating the agreement that provides updated public health services for all these cities. The last contract for public health services between San Gabriel and Los Angeles County was approved by the City Council on May 21st, 1996, and needs to be updated. It is important to note that the new and revised agreement introduces updated terms and continues to provide comprehensive public health services to municipalities at no cost, no reduction or elimination of any of the existing services they provide. Moving on to the background, the categories of the public health services provided by the county on behalf of the cities, as mandated by the state of California. Here are some of the services that they include, one of them being collection and reporting of public health statistics, disease surveillance and control, environmental health and sanitation, public health, laboratory and diagnostic services, health education, public health nursing, and programs related to chronic disease prevention, nutrition, and family planning. I think we could all agree those are all very important. Continuing with the background, the proposed public service contract addresses these issues by modernizing the language for all 85 contracted cities, ensuring alignment with contemporary public health standards and currently statutory references. Once executed, the updated agreement will remain in effect until June 30th, 2029, with automatic renewals, 5-year increments, unless otherwise terminated. Should the city elect to not utilize the county's public health services, it would be required to establish an independent health department. Some of the neighboring cities that have their own health department would be like the city of Pasadena, city of Vernon. Doing so would entail sustained financial commitments, including but not limited to costs associated with personnel, equipment, and much more. Although a portion of these expenses could potentially be offset through service fees, a considerable share would remain unfunded, resulting in significant net expenditures for the city of San Gabriel. So last but not least, the staff recommendation tonight would be for the City Council to introduce the Ordinance 720 tonight and conduct a first reading by title only, scheduling the public hearing, the second reading, and adopting it at the next regular meeting on June 17th. Does the council have any questions?
Well, that was the best presentation tonight. It was only 4 pages, so thank you. The briefest. Okay. Does any council members have any factual questions for staff to clarify the report? Vice Mayor Chan.
No questions, just great job. Thank you. Very clear, very easy to understand. I appreciate you.
And there are no others? Council Member Wu.
Hi, Elena. Great job, and this is your first time doing presentation. I must ask you some questions.
To make it memorable, right?
Of course.
Yes.
Let him do the hazing.
No worry. We have a Google mark here. So, well, the first question, thank you so much. I understand that this is really costly for a city to have their own independent health department. I understand that West Covina is trying to make one for themselves. Do you happen to know that what is the possible cost for a city like us, the size of 40,000 populations, that to have our own?
You know what? I think this is where we ask Google Mark, like you suggested.
Google Mark.
I would say a lot of money.
I think, thank you, Councilman Wu. I think West Covina has tried to pinpoint that, but has not been able to, but they put the cost at several $1 million per year.
Oh.
They have talked about some grants from the state or funding from the county that is going to cover some of that, but there's no guarantee. And as of yet, they haven't even been able to have a process from the county to divorce themselves. So there's no idea what the actual cost would be or how to do it.
No problem. Thank you. Well, also, the services provided by the Department of Public Health are often criticized for being so slow or just have a long waiting time. So is there any issues related to the terms of our agreements with the county?
Short answer is no. This agreement doesn't change any of that. If people are having trouble getting through health, I assume you're talking about for development projects and things like that.
Yes.
Our community development team can help through those issues, and also other staff. If you're talking about things like public health or some of those services, then that's not something that we are able to help with.
I see, yeah, because usually the complaints are coming from, we call maybe the community, the business community, like restaurant owners, and they said that it's, they want us to improve the service efficiency, but it's always so slow to get that. So that's why if there's no options for us to improve that, it's okay. And also, our city has been like a long time been struggling with the issue of illegal street vendors. I wonder that, I understand that there have been several joint enforcement operations between our code enforcement, our police department, and also with the Department of Health, public health in recent, months. But these efforts have not been successful, and I wonder that if there's a kind of agreement with the Department of Public Health that actually includes the provision of such collaboration, but can we increase, or how we can do it to increase the frequency and the effectiveness on their service in St. Gabriel?
Mark, sorry.
Public health has actually been pretty darn responsive as far as that goes. They're covering, as Ileana mentioned, 80 cities in the county doing the same kinds of outreach. We've been pretty successful at scheduling those outreach efforts with public health. Unfortunately, we had one of them interrupted by the windstorm, but the other two that we've done since then have been very successful. And our code enforcement team and PD are working together for coming up with enforcement programs to try to do that more frequently. And in some times, our hangup has actually been with understaffing on our side and not as much with the public health side, because we have to put together a separate detail from PD and code enforcement to do that work. So I wish I could throw it on public health and say it's all their fault, but it really is a collaborative effort, and it's just a long-term problem that we're working on.
So which being said that they won't enforce and they won't come here by themselves, but they will start servicing us when we call the service.
They do come and inspect our restaurants, and they do come and spot check those businesses, those street vendors and food trucks. But when they want to do the all-out enforcement efforts, they prefer to collaborate with us, because not only do they want to have our code staff there to help enforce our codes, but they also like to have police there, because from time to time, some of these do get contentious. So they notify us first and get that assistance.
So let's say if today that you call the health department and say, I want the service from you, usually how long will it take? What is the waiting time for our city?
It's a few weeks, so it's not anything like, we can come and get them to come out tonight if there's an issue that we see. Our police and code are able to deal with those issues in the interim, but we do schedule those enforcement efforts, and it takes a few weeks to a month to set those up.
I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Elena.
Any other clarifying questions?
Just a comment, Councilman Wu, regarding LA County being too slow. Welcome to your LA County government.
You're on a roll, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Ding.
Yeah, but I feel our city is called an independent city. We have PD and the fire. Today, I find out we have a contract with the county too. It's with the public health, right? So technically, we are independent city, but we're also contract city too.
But all the other 80 cities have a public health department too. We're not the only ones, yeah.
Yeah, but I echoed the Councilmember Wu regarding the West Covina, based on their story, but the Mark already explained that you need to spend money for the health department. But he told me, the one council member, maybe they can get a lot of money from state and the county too to recover that. But right now, it looks like a different story, right? Okay.
There's too many shortfalls right now at the state level.
All right. So, contract, but it's really like I hear about a business owner regarding the business license application with the county. So the contract is a contract. We cannot do anything. We cannot negotiation with the county say, hey, especially you need, if our city of San Gabriel, the business you can expedite some scenario, some case, help the business owner.
We do have the option to pay for extra services. There is a way to ask for services over and above the contract level, and we could pay for that. But I have found that the majority of time when businesses complain or are concerned about the service level, there's usually some sort of a miscommunication or something that the applicant or their designer's not understanding on their part, or we are not understanding what they're looking for. And when our building and safety staff, for example, is able to work with the business owner, they're usually able to fix those things or clear them up pretty quickly. So I would say that our public health department, as far as reviewing plan checks and businesses, they're not an impediment to our businesses opening normally.
Okay.
As far as the forming of the health department, the reason that West Covina looked into that, and during the pandemic, several cities looked into it, and we're starting to have those conversations, is because cities were frustrated with LA County's rules for closing businesses and gatherings and things like that. And they looked at Pasadena and Long Beach at the time, who had their own health departments, and were able to enact some of those rules. And so there was sort of a push to see, could cities start to implement their own? But West Covina is the only one, to my knowledge, that has furthered that conversation.
Okay. Thank you. So actually, based on I hear about a complaint, the percentage it's small, maybe most it's a misunderstanding, right?
And I appreciate you pointing that last comment out, which is that the percentage that council hears about is pretty small for anything that the city and the county do. I mean, they go about business helping, hundreds of people every day. And the ones that we all hear about for complaints are usually the outlier cases. But I would encourage council, if you hear of any concerns with any business owner in the city that's having frustrations, send them to the city and we can help them through that process. And if not, we can try to find out why they're having so much trouble. And if it's a process with the county, I'm certain the county would hear improvement suggestions, things like that.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Mayor.
And the others. I just had a couple, and I'm probably just going to direct them to Mark, but I was just surprised with the analysis that we haven't had an agreement since 1996. That's the way I read it here, that was the last time we entered into a formal agreement. Now we're going to do it every 5 years. So how does that work if we didn't have a formal agreement since it just was in perpetuity?
We probably phrased that not as good as we could have. We've been under contract since 1996. It just has not been updated. So it's just rolled over year after year under those same terms.
So when you say updated, that we formally have to approve it, is that what you mean? Or are we able to include some other kind of provisions, for example, like what was talked about today, maybe feedback? I mean, we talk about recruitment, feedback to public service or the public health department, a review of services, some kind of evaluation. Would that be part of the negotiation, or we just have to kind of go along with whatever they give us?
I think that would be separate from this process. This was not as much of a negotiation. I do have to give the county credit. They reached out with the sample agreement several months before they were asking the cities to adopt. And our city attorneys for all the cities were allowed to review the contract and provide any suggestions. I don't know that the cities, had any real substantive changes. But that being said, this is sort of a take it or leave it. This is for the services we provide. But if we wanted to talk about improving or expanding services, that would be a separate conversation with the county.
Okay, so how many other cities were involved that had agreements that were not renewed, I guess just automatically extended? It just seems surprising. It took so long, and all of a sudden now they're coming back and saying, we want a more formal agreement. I'm just trying to figure out, there's a disconnect here. Something's happened. was there an audit and they said, oh, 1996, or what happened here? It's just really odd.
Every city in the county besides the three that Ileana mentioned, Long Beach, Pasadena, and Vernon, every other city in the county is having to take this to their council and adopt it at the same time. Every city was under, if not the same contract we had since 1996, a very similar contract. And I believe some of this is coming from when they were trying to enforce some of the laws and rules from COVID and some of the public health. They realized that some of the statutes that they reference in their code, some of the things in their existing contract are either old or have been since usurped by other codes. So long story short, I don't know whether it was an internal audit, but in putting the contracts into practice, they realized they needed to update those contracts.
Okay,
And
thank you.
Mayor, if I can
Oh,
add.
yes, I'm sorry. You're here.
Just a fun fact that the majority of the cities have not gone through this process since the 50s or the 60s. So we're one of the few cities that are on top of it. We're in the 90s, so.
Okay. That's nice to hear. Okay, well, thank you. Was there anything else that you discovered besides that? That's an interesting point, that I thought 1996 was far away, or even other cities even longer than that.
No, I was just surprised about how long it's taken, but I actually tried to research the reason why, and I could not find a reason, so.
Okay.
But it seems it's just because a lot of the information is outdated. I looked at the agreement from 96, and just some of the language needed to be updated, simple wording, so.
Well, I guess it took a pandemic for them to finally realize
Right.
it, so. Well, Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No public comment, Mayor.
Okay, so it's now time for council discussion, or I will entertain a motion.
I would like to approve that, that the city council will authorize the city manager to approve the agreement with Los Angeles County for public health service.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry to interject. Ileana, would you put that slide back up? We actually changed the wording a little bit because we're adopting an ordinance, so it's more than just the contract. I'm sorry to cut you off, Councilman Wu. That would be the staff recommendation, which would be to introduce the ordinance and conduct the first reading.
I see a motion, whatever it shows there.
Correct.
I
Do I have a
second.
second?
I
Okay,
second.
a second? Okay, let's vote.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, so next item is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have one quick thing to update the council and the community on. We've kicked off our Economic Development Action Plan. You'll recall a couple of months ago, we entered into a contract with an outside company to help us through that process. And it's exciting because, first of all, you all will be having individual meetings with the team, the consultant team, to get your input, but we're also putting together stakeholder groups in the community. So you'll hear from various groups like the owners in the Mission District, which are a distinct population. You'll hear from folks who own businesses on Valley Boulevard. And we're looking for suggestions for those stakeholder groups that anybody, wants to provide their opinion on and has some expertise on what they think the economic future should look like for San Gabriel. So if you hear rumblings from people being contacted, that's what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, council comments and conference meeting reports. Vice Mayor Chan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a few items. Since the last meeting, on May 21st, I attended a multi-chamber networking mixer at Le Meridien Hotel in Arcadia. On the 24th, I attended the San Gabriel Memorial Day observance ceremony at Plaza Park, just across the street. It was a beautiful ceremony, and I always love seeing those huge flags out there a couple times a year. On the 27th, I attended an earthquake, wildfire, and disaster tour through the San Gabriel Valley with Caltech's earthquake expert, Dr. Lucy Jones. It was very interesting to see where many of the faults are and kind of how they developed over time. On the 28th, I attended an Alhambra, Rosemead, Temple City Combined Chamber of Commerce event. It was at a small business called Kung Fu Acting Star in Temple City. Well, Kung Fu Acting Star Academy in Temple City. And it just reminds me it's been a long time since I've trained, so shame on me. I've got to get back into it. On the 29th, I attended an Arcadia Chamber Mixer at the Courtyard by Marriott in Monrovia. And on May 31st, I attended the 36th Annual Tiananmen Square Commemoration Dinner, hosted by an organization called Visual Artists Guild at the Almanzar Court in Alhambra. On the 2nd, June 2nd, I attended the San Gabriel Volunteers Appreciation Dinner and Ceremony at the Grapevine across the street. So it was a lovely event, and I'm very appreciative of all the volunteers that San Gabriel has. And Madam Mayor, that concludes my report.
Anybody want to? Councilmember Wu?
Well, thank you, Mayor. Well, on May 25th, I attended the San Gabriel Valley Fleet Week dinner with Mayor Menchaca. I would like to thank the Paris Bucket for their generous support in providing pastries to the Navy sailors visiting the city of San Gabriel. On May 29th, I attended LA Metro Bus Stop Improvement Summit in downtown Los Angeles. I have learned that this is very creative and informative and productive meetings that we discuss the real user that needs in order to improve the bus station. And also, we need additional shelters and additional space for wheelchairs and thoughtful trees placements. And also, they demonstrate renovated bus stops with a full LED lighting. This summit was emphasizing how both design and climate plays critical roles. So something we did not know that is Los Angeles experiences 126 high heat days annually. So therefore, that it's adding shades structure is essential. And this summit is very insightful. I will strongly encourage our city staff to continue the conversation with the Metro on these matters. And later that day, I also attended the District Attorney Nathan Hochman's API Month celebration event. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay. Next council member who would like to share? Councilmember Herrera Avila.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just have here a few highlights since our last meeting, about 4 or 5 items. On May 23rd, attended the San Gabriel Queens Ball at the Adult Recreation Center. Got a chance to mingle with our older seniors, and I couldn't keep up with them, so I only stayed there for a couple of dances. Just want to commend the city for putting this event together. It was a great event. I was surprised to see the giveaways, the food, the popcorn, and just the staff being so friendly, and I really want to commend the staff for that. So thank you for that. May 24th, also attended with the whole group a Memorial Day ceremony at the Plaza Park, joined our community in honoring the men and women who had gave their lives in service to our country. The Field of Heroes flag displayed with 200 American flags was especially heartwarming. On May 27th, also attended the Earthquake and Disaster Preparedness Tour along the Vice Mayor Chang and Council Member Wu. Participated in the Regional Disaster Preparedness Tour with Dr. Lucy Jones, focused on how we can strengthen San Gabriel's resilience and emergency readiness. It was uniquely impressive to see that where these fault lines were in the San Gabriel Valley. One particular one, I believe the nearest one was Lacey Park, which was pretty impressive. I did not know that. On May 29th, the CTE Career Exploration launch at McKinley Elementary supported our youth ambassador, Angie, and the San Gabriel School Unified in launching a new career technical education initiative and spoke to over 100 fifth graders. It was a great initiative that kicked off. Another thing here, I want to just thank the police department for their activity regarding I've noticed a big uptake in the graffiti, especially by that one liquor store over here across the way. and the response of our PD. I mean, this has been going on for a few weeks now, and then I noticed that we've taken a proactive approach to actually station a vehicle there, and I hope that that has helped significant. Glad that we have taken those steps to prevent that, so thank you. And last, I want to congratulate the Gabrielino High School speech and debate team. More than 20 students from Gabrielino High School have qualified for the National Speech and Debate Tournament in Iowa, and their coach, Mr. Derek Yule, is also being inducted into the National Speech and Debate Association Hall of Fame. I think it's a great achievement from our school, and our students are so impressive. I've seen them in action multiple times. It's just our future looks bright, especially with our youth. A major achievement for our community. Youth empowerment is one of the core pillars of my work, and I'm proud of that voters place their trust in me to continue uplifting, investing the next generation. I know many of my fellow council members share that commitment as well with regards to the youth. With that said, I would like to ask if any of my colleagues would like to join me to extend this invitation for the team and the coach to be recognized here at a council chambers and present them with a certificate of recognition of achievement and on their outstanding accomplishments. So if any of my fellow council members would like to extend that, at this point, I would like to see if I get a couple of supporters.
I'll support.
Yeah, we got 3. Okay.
Okay,
great.
and if I just, one last thing, they're going to the nationals right now. That's gonna happen pretty soon, so I will recommend that we wait until they get back so that we know what levels they placed. And, well, thank you so much for the support.
I just was going to mention my kids were part of speech and debate, so this is especially for Derek, he's been doing this for decades, and the team goes to nationals every year, just so you know. So I'm a proud parent of Gabrielino Eagles, so thank you. Okay, Councilmember Ding.
Yeah, okay. After last meeting and May 22nd, I joined the regular SGB COG the meeting. So our local most council member is always want some voice for our local control, for our state, the bill. So yeah, I support it. So sometimes state the bill, it's really not considered our local need. So yeah, and that night I have chance to join the South California Chinese Lawyer Association with some neighborhood council member. So they are 50 years already. So it's really represent our community. So it's amazing the celebration and also help especially our Chinese community too. Yeah. And May 24, I joined our city second year the memorial service and the seat also thanks the San Gabriel Memorial Corporation. It's always participate this kind of event, and the city have the community service. They do a good job, and actually, because that weekend I should be go to Northern California. My alumni association 5 years summit. I booked my flyer on a Friday evening, but because I saw that, I feel that on a Friday the morning have this event. Then I don't recognize this Saturday morning, so I changed my flyer and on the Saturday afternoon. But it's good. I feel glad to make it the second year our city have this kind of ceremony. It's wonderful. It's remember our foreign the soldier. Okay, and May May 29, I have, it's regarding the veteran too. It's American Flying Tiger 80 years. That's on the World War II. It's at that time, it's a Japanese invasion to China, and the United States general, it's called, they are a team called the Flying Tiger. So it's really help the China to against the Japan the invasion. So it's a good story. Really the both China and the United States people. Okay, and then I also have a chance to with the council member Wu. It's API. The community welcomed our current DA Nathan Huckman. So he really good for our community and listen our community the need. Yeah, okay. And on the June 1st, this organization, they called 8 years the U.S. Legacy International Art Festival, hosting our Sheraton. It's really good. The mayor? Oh, you were there. Okay, so I had to remember because that day also.
Didn't you sing there?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Oh, you did. Okay.
You forgot that little bit
Yeah.
of information.
It was, yeah. Saturday also too many event too. Okay, and I skipped it. Okay, and the June 2nd, at the really like our city. I think it's the first time we have the appreciation the dinner for our volunteer. It's I really like this kind of recognition and the volunteer. They do something maybe they don't asking, but we still need a appreciation, whatever they encourage more community involvement, this kind of the volunteer to help our city. And also, yes, the same days and have the China, I attend the China California Business Forum, the daytime the forum, and then after evening they have some ceremony to welcome them. Especially evening day, it's for the it's near to my hometown area called Jiangsu, the province. So they it's help the community how to even right now this scenario how to help to people to do the business and appropriate to do that, and how they can avoid the uncertainties, something to help the both, because a lot of both sides people it's a fear about do the business. So it's a great event too. Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
I feel a karaoke challenge between Councilman Ding and me when that new karaoke place opens.
His was a little more subdued. But anyway, okay, I also attended the 80th American Flying Tigers, the memorial ceremony, and Fleet Week. A special shout out to the St. Gabriel Veterans Memorial Coalition. It was a back-to-back event, and they were there both times, and their participation was, very invaluable. So I'm just so glad they were there for both events. I also attended the volunteer appreciation. We've had them before, but I think it was maybe, 2-3 years ago that we had one. But this one included a dinner, and I know all our volunteers at all ages really appreciated the event yesterday. I just wanted to, I'm sorry, one more thing. Kiwanis Scholarship. Every year we give out 10 $1,000 scholarships, and you just don't see that anymore, especially during these economic times, and we're continuing to with that tradition, and we look at 6 schools. I was on the scholarship committee also, 6 local schools, both public and private, and out of 75 applications, we were able to select 10 very, very deserving scholarship recipients. So there was a dinner this past Friday where they were able to bring their parents and a staff person, typically the principal or maybe their counselor from their school, and it was just a really nice event, very genuine, very positive, and again, you know, as it's been mentioned before, the future is very bright. I wanted to remind everyone that our Thursday concert series will begin. You can get the lineup online, but the first one is June 26th, 7 p.m. at Vincent Lugo Park. And then, of course, July 3rd, mark your calendar. We are starting to, Councilmember Wu and I are already starting with the planning of the Independence Day celebration, and it will be longer this year. We are going to have a laser show as well as the drones, and I think it's going to be even more exciting than last year because we keep building upon it. So please mark your calendars and to spend Independence Day celebration the day before on July 3rd at Gabriel High School. And that concludes my report. Tonight's meeting will be adjourned in memory of Baldwin Park Police Officer Samuel Riveros, who tragically lost his life in the line of duty on May 31st, 2025. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and colleagues and to Officer Anthony Pimentel, who was wounded, for full and speedy recovery. The next regular city council meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 17th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. The meeting is adjourned at 8:50. Thank you.